Well, first up on the show, the UN has warned of a worsening civil order after weeks of Israeli bombardment and firing on Gaza. The relentless airstrikes have led to hospitals, residential buildings turning into rubble and crippling food, water and electricity supplies, forcing hungry Palestinians to break into warehouses. And according to the UN, desperate Palestinians in Gaza have burst into aid centers after more than 3 weeks of siege and bombardment. This as Israel escalated the ground operations in the Hamas-run territory. With the Gazan death toll crossing over 8,000, Palestinian Prime Minister has urged for an end to the aggression to save thousands of endangered lives.
المطلوب الآن وفورا وقف العدوان.
What is urgently needed now is to stop the aggression and allow the treatment of the injured to save the lives of thousands who are threatened by death. The infernal killing machine driven by the instinct of murder, revenge, terror and destruction has not been satisfied yet with the lives it has claimed and the wounds it has deepened. We do not know the number of victims that will be enough for it or the amount of blood that quenches the thirst of the criminal avengers. We raise our voices loudly, stop the war on our people, open safe humanitarian corridors to provide food, medicine, water and fuel, and treat the wounded.
Displaced Palestinians in central Gaza Strip are now forced to bathe in the sea and use seawater to wash their clothes amid fresh water and electricity shortages in the Gaza region. The continuous airstrikes that have pounded Hamas targets has displaced several families in Gaza. Footage released by the Palestinian Red Crescent Society showed Palestinian families sleeping outside a hospital. The Red Crescent said it received warnings from Israeli authorities to immediately evacuate the Al-Quds hospital, but said it is too short a notice to move. After Israel launched its ground offensive, the Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi has warned Israeli authorities that it has crossed all red lines and its continuous ground operations might force Iran to take action as well. Meanwhile, Israel authorities have stressed that it is carrying out their operations in northern Gaza in an organized manner. The British Foreign Secretary James Cleverly has said that the UK is working with Egypt and Israel in order to get a humanitarian pause in order to ensure more aid crosses into Gaza.
In direct response to the emerging humanitarian situation in Gaza, the British Prime Minister announced more than doubling of our aid to the Palestinian people in Gaza. But at the moment, that aid is predominantly stuck in Egypt. We're working extensively with the Egyptians, with the Israelis and others to try and have a humanitarian pause, temporary pause, so that we can get that humanitarian aid to the people that need it.
To this effect, WION spoke to the Public Information Officer at United Nations Relief and Work Agency for Palestine Refugees, who pointed out the acute shortage of fuel is disrupting the aid work for civilians in Gaza.
Yes, we started to have some humanitarian aid coming into Gaza a couple of days ago. But again, those trucks of humanitarian aids did not include fuel. They included a few medical supplies, food, clean water. But again, what got into Gaza is very, very few. It's like a drop in the ocean. We need even more. We need the humanitarian aid to be entering Gaza in a regular, sustained way, in a way that can be enough for all the refugees and the displaced people inside our shelters, so that our staff can extend the needed humanitarian support to all those people. Again, no fuel so far, and without fuel, UNRWA cannot actually operate its desalination plants to generate or to provide clean water. We cannot operate our water wells to get water for people to use for their daily life. We cannot move our trucks, our vehicles. These vehicles are important to transfer the humanitarian support from one place to another. Without fuel, we cannot definitely do this.
Meanwhile, the chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court visited the Rafa crossing point between Egypt and Gaza. He called the current events as the most tragic days for Gazans. He further said he was determined to place protections bound by international law on civilians in both Gaza and Israel wherever possible. And for the very latest updates, our correspondent Jody Cohen has been sending us live reports. Let's take a look at this one from Rafa.
Since Hamas's massacre in Israel, when infiltrators killed 1,400 people in one day and took over 230 people hostage back to Gaza, the Israel Defense Forces have been warning Palestinian civilians in the northern Gaza Strip to evacuate to the south for their safety, as the IDF aims to dismantle Hamas's terror infrastructure. The IDF and White House have confirmed that Hamas is trying to prevent Gazans from evacuating. Meanwhile, aid is reaching civilians in South Gaza, and the Israeli army says that there is now sufficient water and food to meet Gaza's humanitarian needs. However, according to a New York Times report, a Lebanese and Western officials have backed up Israel's assertion that Hamas has stockpiled food, water, medicines and hundreds of thousands of gallons of fuel for rockets and explosives in its vast network of tunnels, leaving Gaza residents without and Israeli residents in the firing line, with a rocket barrage from Hamas on Sunday sending approximately 1/5 of the Israeli population into bomb shelters. This is Jody Cohen for WION World as One.